Hello everyone. Today's book today is called Fish is Fish. And our unit this week is about fish and animals that live in the ocean. And we'll be learning about what makes a fish a fish. You would say that a fish has bones and they breathe underwater and they have gills. So that's what makes a fish a fish. And this book by Leo Lionni is about a fish and his friend, a frog. You might remember this author and this writer, this illustrator, when we did Little Blue and Little Yellow. And here's the end paper. At the edge of the woods, there was a pond, and there was a minnow and a tadpole swam among the weeds. They were inseparable friends. Let's watch what happens to our tadpole. One morning, the tadpole discovered that during the night he had grown 2 little legs. "Look," he said triumphantly, "look, I am a frog." "Nonsense," said the minnow. "How could you be a frog if only last night you were a little fish like me?" They argued and argued until finally the tadpole said, "Frogs are frogs and fish is fish, and that's that." See the little legs? In the weeks that followed, the tadpole grew tiny front legs and his tail got smaller and smaller. And then one day, a real frog now, he climbed out of the water and on to the grassy bank. A bank is on the edge of a river or a pond. We might call it the beach or the shore. Another word for it is bank. The minnow, too, had grown and had become a full-fledged fish. He often wondered where his 4-footed friend had gone, but days and weeks went by, and the frog did not return. Then one day, with a happy splash that shook the weeds, the frog jumped into the pond. "Where have you been?" asked the fish excitedly. "I have been about the world, hopping here and there," said the frog, "and thought I have seen extraordinary things." "Like what?" asked the fish. "Birds," said the frog mysteriously. "Birds!" And he told the fish about the birds who had wings and 2 legs and many, many colors. As the frog talked, his friend saw the birds fly through his mind like large feathered fish. "What else?" the fish asked impatiently. So he imagined them, and in his mind they look like that, like a fish with wings. "Cows," said the frog. "Cows, they have 4 legs, horns, eat grass, and carry pink bags of milk." So there he is imagining what a cow looks like. Looks like a fish. "And people," said the frog. "Men, women, children." And he talked until it was dark in the pond. But the picture in the fish's mind was full of lights and colors and marvelous things, and he couldn't sleep. If he could only jump about like his friend and see that wonderful world. See what he imagines people look like? Like fish with clothes. And then here's what he's imagining. A fantastical world above the pond. And so the days went by. The frog had gone and the fish just lay there dreaming about birds in flight, grazing cows, and those strange animals all dressed up that his friend had called people. One day he finally decided that come what may, he too must see them. And so with a mighty whack of his tail, he jumped clear out of the water onto the bank. He wanted to see these things so badly, he jumped out of the water. He landed in the dry, warm grass, and there he lay, gasping for air, unable to breathe or to move. Help! He groaned feebly. Luckily, the frog, who had been hunting butterflies nearby, saw him and with all of his strength pushed him back into the water. Still stunned, the fish floated about for an instant. Then he breathed deeply, letting the clear, cool water run through his gills. Now he felt weightless again, and with an ever so slight motion of the tail, he could move to and fro, up and down, as before. The sun rays reached down within the weeds and gently shifted patches of luminous color. This world was surely the most beautiful of all worlds. He smiled at his friend the frog, who sat watching him from a lily leaf. "You were right," he said. "Fish is fish." And that's all there is. So the theme of the story can boil down to fish is fish, or frog is frog. Frogs have a life cycle where they start out as a fish-like creature, and then they go through a metamorphosis, and they change, and then they go above the water, and they breathe with lungs above the water. And fish, most of them, are not able to breathe above the water because their lungs have gills, not a nose, and they have to breathe underwater to get their oxygen. And so they can learn about the world from each other, but they cannot exist in the world. So, you have to know your limitations. If you're a fish, then you do what a fish does. If you're a frog, you do what a frog does. If you're a person, you do what a person does. All right, we'll learn more about the ocean this week. Goodbye.